The very best Christmas memories manage to flicker on like lights on Christmas trees, don't they? For this year's FlowCast Christmas special, we've invited our sisters to share some of their favorite Christmas stories. We hope there's something here that will cheer your heart, inspire you with joy, or perhaps raise a belly laugh or two. We begin with a story from Sister Kathleen Gallagher, who currently ministers at St. Raphael Elementary School in Naperville, Illinois. In the 1970s, she was down the road a piece at St. Joseph Parish School in Bradley, teaching fourth graders and living for Christmas break. So let's call her story Ring the Bell for Christmas Break.
When one thinks about a Christmas memory in ministry, this is what came to mind. After a teacher has been in the business for 5 or 6 years, it seems that he or she would feel confident that things are under control. I did. I thought I had good management. Well, not always, I guess. I had been in the classroom for about that long and was enjoying my life as I think it was a fourth grade teacher. I might add, it was, as most classes were in those days, in the 70s, quite large. That doesn't have anything to do with the story, however. The setting was St. Joseph's School in Bradley, Illinois. So it's Christmas/Advent time, and I want to make it fun and exciting for these children. We had worked so hard on memorizing the famous night before Christmas. That part was great. I suppose we practiced it each day up to the day before Christmas vacation began. I like that part. The rest of this adventure was my contribution of a great big refrigerator box that we somehow made to look like a red and white brick chimney. A child of a Santa-like physique was going to dress the part, and at a certain part of the poem would emerge from this faux chimney. All was well, right? No, at the moment he became our classroom Santa and jumped out of the side exit of the box, the crowd went wild. All my experience as a teacher was lost. Well, maybe not all of it. Gone was the feeling of being the teacher, the leader, the disciplinarian. Our Merry Christmas became, oh my, let's ring the bell and begin Christmas break, for I am surely ready.
Next, we hear two stories from Sister Barbara Blessey, a pastoral associate at St. Francis Xavier Parish in Carbondale, Illinois. Both of her tales occurred when Sister Barbara was teaching at St. Mary's School in New Berlin, Illinois. We begin with O Holy Night, a Christmas pageant. As the story opens, it's just hours before the school Christmas pageant, and the drama builds around a snowstorm, a broken piano, and a farmer with a flatbed truck.
This story is not a particularly holy reflection on Christmas. In fact, it's somewhat the exact opposite, but it's sort of remotely connected to the singing of Christmas carols. It was the mid-70s, and I was stationed at St. Mary's in New Berlin with Sister Janet File. She taught 7th and 8th grades and was the principal, and I taught the 1st and 2nd graders. The school enrollment was maybe 100, 120 students. There were double grades throughout. It was time for the Christmas pageant, which would take place that very evening at the KC Hall, a few blocks away from school. I was in charge of the 10 or 12 students who would be on stage as Mary and Joseph, the angels, shepherds, the three kings, etc. That day, the day of the pageant, at the start of the noon recess, these students and I trudged through the snow, walking the 3 blocks or so to the KC Hall. I remember the snowdrifts were so high that they came up to my knees, and my habit got quite wet. Once we arrived at the 𝐬𝐧𝐞 Hall, we got down to the business of serious practice. At the end of the noon recess, Janet brought the rest of the school children to the 𝐬𝐧𝐞 Hall. They would be singing several Christmas carols for the pageant. I could feel them entering the hall. They all came in very quietly, and Janet had them line up all around the walls of the hall. My students and I were in the middle of our practice. A couple of minutes later, Janet came and stood beside me to my left. She very quietly said, "What did you do to the piano?" What a question to ask someone who didn't know how to play the piano in the first place. I said, "Well, nothing. You know I can't play it. I didn't go near it." She said, "Well, the entire keyboard is broken. It can't be played." We were both stunned. I need to pause and rewind here just to mention that a couple of days prior, Janet had gone to the 𝐬𝐧𝐞 Hall to check to see if the piano needed tuning. She realized then that a couple of the keys were broken and she couldn't get any sound out of them. A man from the 𝐬𝐧𝐞s happened to be there. She mentioned this to him and asked if they could get a tuner to come to fix the keys. He said he would take care of it, and she left, trusting that all would be well. But instead of getting a professional to look at the piano, the man decided he'd fix it, but to no avail. Rather, he succeeded in ensuring that the entire keyboard couldn't play anything. So now what to do? In those days, there was an upright piano in every classroom at St. Mary's. So Janet called a farmer with a flatbed truck. I believe he also ran a local restaurant as well, because that's how she tracked him down. She asked him to bring a certain piano to the hall. It took some time, but he managed to get it and bring it. I can still see the men raising the garage-like door at the end of the hall, and in the process of bringing the piano in, nearly dropping it. For Janet, I'm sure that was nearly her second heart attack of the day. In the end, the Christmas pageant went off just fine. The parents were thrilled. The actors had practiced very well, and the singers were in full voice, despite our close call earlier that day.
Sister Barbara's second tale is Sister Victorine and the Christmas Turkey. Still in New Berlin, another snowstorm, a frozen turkey, and a mishap with Sister Victorine's white Dominican habit.
My second story is also situated in New Berlin in the mid-70s, and for a couple of years, Sister Victorine joined our local community. On Christmas Eve morning, the three of us had gone into Springfield to deliver gifts to some benefactors and to do some grocery shopping for the holiday. On our way back to New Berlin, instead of going home right away, we made one last stop at a home to deliver the last gift. It had snowed quite a bit a few days before, and the roads and the people's yards were very, very slushy. Janet was the driver. Victorine left the car and put the gift inside the family's storm door because they weren't home, and she returned to the car. As Janet started to pull out, she realized that the car was totally stuck in the mud. None of her efforts to move the car forward worked at all. Sister Victorine had an idea. She said to me, I was in the back seat, she said, "Give me the grocery bag that the turkey is in." She then tore it to fashion one large sheet of brown paper. She got out of the car and put it under the back tire, hoping to provide enough traction so Janet could guide the car out of the mud. Unfortunately, it didn't work. All that happened was that Victorine's white habit got very dirty with mud, and the car went nowhere. Janet knew one of the neighbors had a truck and decided to ask them if they could use chains to pull us out, and off she went down the street to make her request. Meanwhile, Victorine, frustrated that her idea hadn't worked, she said to me, "Give me that turkey. I need to get home to start thawing it so that I can cook it. I can't stay here all day." So there I was, still in the back seat of the car because I'm pretty helpless in such situations. I handed Victorine the turkey and watched her walk down the middle of the road to our convent, carrying a naked turkey for all the world to see. It was quite a sight to remember.
Sister Jean Patrice Shingle ministers at Marian Catholic High School in Chicago Heights, Illinois, where, at the time of her story, she was living with Sisters Karen Kavidra and Mary Jo Sobiak. Sister Jean Patrice has, well, let's just call it a knack for attracting adventure. What she calls God moments. This time, her God moment happens while she's on the road between Chicago and Indianapolis. Traffic is bumper to bumper and the wind is howling. Her story is called, "It's Christmas? Are you really sure?"
All right, I'm going to talk today about a Christmas of 2 years ago. We had just gotten back from a lovely gathering of the sisters in the Chicagoland area when Sister Karen came down with the COVID from that event. She got quite ill, and I ended up during my Christmas vacation having to cancel a lot of plans because I didn't want to get other people sick and nursing her back to health. Around December 23rd, a huge blizzard appeared on the horizon along with 20 below zero temperatures. And thankfully, by the 24th, Sister Karen had gotten well, and we were able to have the sisters over for Christmas Eve dinner. The next day, I was planning to leave to go to see my brothers, and Mary Jo had been stuck in Tucson because her plane was canceled because of the Southwest computer problem. But she promised she'd be back on the 26th, so I took off on my road trip to the Indianapolis area. On my way down, I realized how much more traffic there was because many people were stuck in hotels because of the blizzard. And when I ended up going to the rest stop, I pulled in, and just as I was about to get out of my car, I had this, what I call God feeling. God was asking me to do something. So I sat back in my seat and I closed my eyes and I said, "What do you want me to do?" And it came to me very quickly as I was watching people come out of the rest stop. Their heads were buried way down because the wind was so high. And it was like 18 below zero. But I knew what God was asking me to do. So I got out of my car, and as I met the first person, I said, "Merry Christmas." And they looked up at me with the biggest smile that symbolized all the joy that Christmas meant to them in the past and all the hope that Christmas meant to them that day. And I did this for 6 people that I met. And every time the people would look up with such a happy expression on their face, and you could see what all the Christmases in the past meant to them and the hope of what Christmas meant to them today. And when I walked into the rest stop, I went into the bathroom, and there was this mother and 4-year-old little girl. And I looked down at the little girl, and I got down on my knee. I said, "Merry Christmas." And she said, "It's Christmas? Is it really Christmas?" I said, "Yes, it's Christmas." It didn't not happen?" I said, "No, it's really Christmas." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, yes, it's Christmas." And then her mother said, "I told you we're going to have Christmas with Grandma." "Well, last night was Christmas and Santa didn't come." "Oh, no, Santa told me that he's bringing the gifts to Grandma, that they'll be there for you. And she's looked at me and she said, Lady, thank you, thank you. And she gave me the biggest hug. And I said, you are so welcome. I knew that Santa wouldn't forget you. No, no way. And so when I got up, she hugged me again around my legs. Thank you, lady. Thank you, lady. Thank you for telling us it's Christmas. And her mother said to me, oh, we were wondering why she was so quiet in the back seat. She had thought that Christmas had passed her by because of the storm. But she realized, in that greeting, that it was still Christmas. And as I drove away from that rest stop, I realized that we are all called to bring joy to others. And it could be the simplest little thing, like Merry Christmas, or an act of love or kindness to another during this season of Advent and Christmas. And so I hope that your Christmas and your Advent season is blessed in every way possible. And go out there and just do one act of kindness during this season, and you'll have that feeling too. God bless you all.
The joy in that little girl's exuberant response to the news that Christmas had really come. Well, that reminds me of the story we know from the Gospel of Luke. Sister Celestine Rondelli is here with me to tell us that Christmas tale.
From the Gospel of Luke. The angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were struck with great fear. The angel said to them, Do not be afraid, for behold, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. For today, in the city of David, a Savior has been born for you, who is Messiah and Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find an infant wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. And suddenly there was a multitude of the heavenly host with the angel, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests.
And our final story. Sister Ann Clennon lives at St. Rose Convent in Springfield now, and along with Sister Catherine O'Connor, she is establishing a new Dominican Literacy Center in Springfield. But in 1995, she was living at St. Peter's Convent in Aurora, Illinois, and the sisters were plotting how best to contribute to the annual parish Christmas dinner for unhoused people and others who were on their own. With the help of some friends, they managed to multiply, like loaves and fishes, generosity, joy, and Christmas community.
When I saw the request for Christmas stories, I was immediately transported back to 1995. It was November, and I was living at St. Peter's Convent in Aurora, Illinois. There were 5 sisters living there. Sister Mary Virginia Durhaig, Mary Harris, both now with God, Judith Curran, Kathleen Ryan, and myself. At dinner one night, we began talking about the annual parish Christmas dinner they served every year to the unhoused and to those who are alone and not able to prepare a meal for themselves. The parish was not wealthy, but they cared deeply about those who had less. Besides the homemade dinner, small gifts were given to the guests. Some things were not really appropriate for the unhoused. We talked about other options. After some discussion, we decided that the unhoused needed hooded sweatshirts, gloves, hats, socks. Other guests could maybe use toiletries. Knowing that the parish was already giving, we decided to invite old friends at St. Bernadette's Parish in Evergreen Park to join us in helping others. We invited St. Peter's Parish to donate toiletries. The response was remarkable. Kevin Reedy and Bill Vach drove a van filled with boxes of sweatshirts and hats and gloves and socks from Evergreen Park. To see parishioners who would never meet the recipients of their gifts give so generously was a witness to long be remembered. On Christmas Eve, we sisters prepared the items for our guests to choose from. Christmas Day, each guest was given a number when they entered. I remember one gentleman remarking, "I hope there's one for me." And there was. We even had some left over, just like loaves and fish. It was a wonderful day. So much giving and receiving, so much joy. What was it about this that touched me so deeply? I think it was community. Our local Dominican community sharing their gifts, the St. Peter's community sharing their gifts, old friends at St. Bernadette's sharing with folks they would never meet, and the community of guests who enjoyed all that was prepared for them. Community is what Christmas is about, giving and receiving, as God sent the Son to share life with us. I wish you a blessed Christmas. May a community, big or small, touch your heart these days.
Along with Sister Ann and all our Dominican sisters, we at 𝐻𝐶 wish for you many joyful hours ahead as you remember the gift of that first Christmas day when
The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. And we saw his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth.
Merry Christmas and the happiest of New Years from all of us at 𝐻𝐶 to you.